The city woke slowly, like someone reluctant to leave a dream. Dawn spread across the rooftops in thin bands of pale gold, touching windows and balconies with a promise it did not yet explain. Emma stood at the kitchen window of her small apartment, holding a cup of coffee she had forgotten to drink. Below, the street hummed with early buses, a florist arranging buckets of tulips, and a stray cat watching the world with careful patience. She had lived in this city for 3 years, long enough to know its moods, but not long enough to feel entirely claimed by it. Some mornings, it felt like a temporary shelter. Other mornings, like this one, it felt like a place waiting for something to begin. Her phone buzzed on the counter. A message from her editor: "The new project starts today. You'll meet your partner at 10. Emma exhaled slowly. She had agreed to the collaboration because it made sense, professionally, logically, safely. But the word partner unsettled her. She had grown used to working alone, writing late into the night, shaping words that belonged only to her. Letting someone else into that space felt intimate in a way she could not quite name. She finished her coffee, grabbed her notebook, and stepped outside, locking the door behind her with a soft click that echoed more loudly than it should have. The cafe was warm and smelled of baked bread and cinnamon. Emma arrived early, choosing a table near the window. She arranged her notebook carefully, as if preparing for a quiet defense. At 10 sharp, the door opened, and he walked in. Daniel was taller than she expected, with dark hair that refused to stay neatly in place and eyes that seemed to observe everything without judgment. He scanned the room once, then smiled when he saw her. "Emma?" he asked. "Yes." "Daniel?" They shook hands, a brief, polite touch that lingered just a second too long. He sat down, setting his bag beside the chair. "I've read your work," he said. "You write like you're listening to something most people can't hear." The compliment caught her off guard. "I could say the same about your photography," she replied. "Your images feel patient." He laughed softly. That might be the first time anyone has said that. They ordered coffee. Conversation flowed easily. About the project, about the city, about small, harmless things. Yet beneath the surface, Emma felt a strange awareness, like standing too close to the edge of something deep. When they parted, Daniel said, "I think this is going to be good. Not just for the work." She nodded, unsure why her heart responded before her mind did. They met in studios filled with soft light, in libraries where dust floated like memory, in quiet streets where Daniel lifted his camera and waited for the right moment. Emma watched him work, how he never rushed, how he seemed to respect the silence before pressing the shutter. Sometimes they didn't talk at all. And strangely, that felt comfortable. One afternoon, they sat on a park bench, reviewing notes and images. Children ran past them, laughing. The wind carried the smell of fresh grass. "Do you ever feel," Emma said slowly, "like life is always almost happening?" Daniel considered this. "Yes," he said. "Like standing in a doorway." She looked at him then, really looked, and wondered how someone could understand her so easily. They learned each other's habits. Emma always wrote with music playing softly through her headphones. Daniel preferred silence. She drank too much coffee. He forgot to eat when he was focused. Late one evening, rain trapped them in the studio. The windows blurred, the city dissolving into streaks of light. "I used to believe love was loud," Daniel said suddenly. "Dramatic. Impossible to ignore." "And now?" Emma asked. "Now I think it's quieter. Like someone staying." The air between them tightened. Emma felt a familiar fear rise in her chest, the fear of wanting something she might lose. She did not answer. The project neared completion. With it came an unspoken tension. Emma sensed the question hovering between them: what happens after? One night, Daniel walked her home. They stopped outside her building. The streetlight above them flickered. I'm leaving, he said. For a while. A gallery in another city wants my work. Her heart dropped, but she forced a smile. That's wonderful. He searched her face. Is it? She wanted to tell him everything. That she had begun to measure her days by his presence, that his absence already felt like a loss. Instead, she said, "You should go." He nodded, disappointed but respectful. "I'll miss this." "So will I." They stood there, close enough to touch, far enough to remain strangers. Emma finished the project alone. It was praised, published, admired. None of that filled the quiet he left behind. They exchanged messages at first. Then less often. Life moved, as it always did. Yet sometimes, Emma would see a photograph in a magazine and recognize his way of seeing. Sometimes she would hear a phrase in her mind and know he would have understood it. Love, she realized, did not always demand possession. Sometimes it simply existed, asking to be honored. A year later, on a morning much like the first, Emma stood at her kitchen window. Her phone buzzed. "I'm back in the city," Daniel wrote. "Would you like to walk?" They met in the same park. The same bench. Everything was familiar, yet different. "I was afraid," Emma admitted, as they walked. "Afraid that if I told you how I felt, it would end." Daniel stopped. "And now?" "Now I know that not saying it was worse." He reached for her hand, gently, as if asking permission. "I loved you," he said. Quietly. Patiently. She smiled, tears in her eyes. "I still do." Love did not arrive like a storm. It arrived like morning light, slow, certain, impossible to deny. They did not promise forever. They promised honesty, presence, and the courage to stay. And that, Emma thought, was more than enough.